Hello and welcome back. I've got something I'm really excited to share with you today. I picked up the watercolour sample set from Vinci Paint Co. and I picked it up myself. This isn't sponsored or anything. And I'll go over the reasons why I've picked this up. I also bought the Burnt Umber in their 37 milliliter tube size, which is the largest that they offer, to replace my Burnt Umber that's currently run out. So I've been using the Daniel Smith Burnt Umber for years and my tube is finally finished, and I thought that I would try out a new brand this time based on swatches and paintings I've seen from other people using the Da Vinci PBR7 Burnt Umber. So I'm really excited to pour that out once I've finished the well of paint that I have left in my palette. But today we're going to be specifically looking at the sample set. So we've got 5 boxes here to go through, and I'm going to be going through half of them today in this video. And I've decided to separate out the swatching into 2 videos simply because it took me 20 minutes per box to swatch these. So I thought it'd be easier on me and easier on you if I split them into 2 videos. One of the things that drew me to this sample set are the size of the samples. I'm able to not only do a full swatch chart with them all, but I have more than enough paint left afterwards to do paintings with them and actually apply them in real life scenarios, which I'm really excited to do, and I'm going to be probably filming some of those paintings as well to share. I'm planning on doing some limited palettes possibly as well with these, and I'm able to explore a lot more pigments than I otherwise would and actually apply them, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to be going through the yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, purples, and then the warm blues in today's video. And then I'll be going over the cool blues, the greens, and then the earth tones and neutrals in the next video. I also want to take a moment to thank Lana, who suggested this set to me and answered some of my questions. She paints animals in watercolour and sometimes gouache as well. She paints gouache on wood, which I really recommend going to check out because it's a really interesting combination. But let's get into the pigments. First up is a pigment that I've wanted to try for a really long time, and that's Titan Buff, which is PW6. It's opaque, staining and granulating. And I'm so glad to finally have a sample size that I can actually do paintings with. I'm hoping to squeeze out 2 small paintings from this, if possible, but we'll see. I'd like to try and get a good understanding of if this is a pigment that I would want to include on my palettes or not. And I'm hoping to learn whether that is true through this sample dot. Next up we have Nickel Titanate Yellow, which is PY53. It's also opaque, staining and granulating, but it contains a hazardous chemical, so bear that in mind. I'll try and mention when things have hazardous chemicals according to this chart. And then we have Cadmium Yellow Lemon, which is PY35. It's of course a hazardous chemical. It is opaque and staining, but not granulating. Both of these I'm not super interested in. I'm glad to test them out, but I know that I probably won't ever really add them to my palette. How people choose to use or not use hazardous pigments is up to them. I personally steer clear of cadmiums, and then I sometimes dip into nickels and cobalt-based pigments, and I usually limit how many I use per palette just so that I can keep an eye on my usage of them and know which ones to be more careful around. Next, we have Hansa Yellow Light, PY3. This is very good light fastness, whereas the others were excellent. It's semi-transparent and staining. And now we have Aureolin Mixture, which is PY40 mixed with PY3. It's again very good, this time fully transparent and has a hazardous warning. This is another one that I am possibly going to just try out through this set, but I probably won't add. Same with the Hansa Yellow Light. But next we have one that I do want to potentially add to my palettes and want to really test out, which is Da Vinci Yellow, which is PY154. This is very good, semi-transparent and staining, and I believe it was Denise over at In Liquid Colour that inspired me to try this pigment out. And then we have Arialide, I can never pronounce that, Yellow FGL, which is PY97. Very good light fastness, semi-transparent and staining. Interested to try this out. I've not really come across it that much before, I don't believe, but it's not one that I'm itching to try like the Da Vinci Yellow or the Buff Titanium. Next we have Cadmium Yellow Light, PY35. Again, it's opaque, excellent light fastness, staining and hazardous. And then we'll be moving on to Hansa Yellow Medium, which is another one that I'm really interested in trying, which is PY74. This is very good. Fully transparent, I'm just checking the chart, fully transparent and staining. And again, this is one that I really want to try out. I'm wanting to explore yellows more. Yellows, oranges and reds, especially warm reds, are an area that I haven't allowed myself to expand upon much in my painting journey. And I feel the itch now to start really exploring different pigments in that region. And these are some of the ones that I'm interested in doing that with. Then we have Cadmium Yellow Medium, PY35, opaque, excellent, staining and hazardous. And what you're seeing me dip into now is Gamboge Hue, PY3 and PY42. Very good, semi-transparent and granulating a little bit. So an interesting thing about the chart for this, that they have a G1 for a little bit of granulation and G2 for it granulates well. So I'll mention specifically when it's G1 rating. Then we have Hansa Yellow Deep, another one I'm interested in, which is PY65. Very good, fully transparent and staining. I'm also kind of interested in trying out the Gamboge Hue a little bit as well. It's probably not one that I would add, but it's one that I'm interested in at least experimenting with. Then we have Arealide Yellow Deep, PY65 again. So Hansa Yellow Deep and Arealide Yellow Deep are both PY65. And the Arealide Yellow Deep is semi-transparent, whereas the other is fully transparent. Then we have Cadmium Yellow Deep, and that is PY35 and PO20. Opaque, opaque, staining, and then the G1 granulation and hazardous. And it's also excellent light fastness. Then we have Soul Shine, which is an interesting mix of pigments. It's PO62 and PY97. Very good, semi-transparent and granulating 1, G1. Again, it's one that I'm interested in trying out. It's not one that I specifically was searching for, but I'll be interested in testing it out through paintings. Then we have Benzimida Orange. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that as well, but that's PO62. Excellent light fastness, semi-transparent and nothing else. I believe this is my Azo orange that's on my palette at the moment. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if that's the same pigment number. It might be. Then we have Cadmium Orange, which is PO20, which is excellent light fastness, opaque, staining, and G1 granulation, so that granulates a little bit. Then we have Da Vinci Orange, PO73, excellent, semi-opaque, and staining. So that's what I'm dipping into at the moment. This is one that I'm interested in exploring a little bit. I'm not sure how much I would lean towards adding it to my palette, but it's something that I would be interested in exploring as part of my widening of my knowledge for the yellows, oranges, and warm reds. Then we're going to be dipping into Benzimida Orange Deep, which is PO36. Excellent light fastness, semi-transparent this time, and nothing else. So the previous one was semi-opaque, this one is semi-transparent. And again, interested in trying it out. Then we have Vermilion, which is PR188 mixed with PO62. Very good light fastness, semi-transparent and nothing else. Again, interested in trying that out, seeing what I like in my oranges. Then I'm dipping into Bright Red, which is PR188 mixed with PY65 this time. It's also very good and semi-transparent, but staining this time. Another one that I'm interested in trying, just to widen my knowledge. Then we have Cadmium Scarlet, PR108, hazardous, excellent, opaque, staining, and granulation 1, so the partially granulating. Then we have Cadmium Red Light, which is also PR108. Same again, it's excellent opaque, staining, granulation 1 and hazardous. And then finally in this box we have permanent red, which is PR 188. Very good, semi-transparent, staining and granulation 1. This is the one that you saw mixed for vermilion and bright red. So I'm very interested in trying that one in order to gain more of a knowledge on my warm reds. Box 1 down, box 2 begins with cadmium red medium, PR 108. Again, hazardous, excellent light fastness, opaque, staining, granulation 1. Not something I'm interested in adding to my palette, but I might play around with it a little bit using these dots. It feels weird calling them dots because they're pretty big samples. And then we have cadmium red deep, again PR 108, with the same again, it's opaque, excellent, staining, granulation 1 and hazardous. Then we have perylene red, and this is one that I'm really interested in because it reminds me a lot of my transparent pyrrole orange, but with a more red leaning hue. So that's what I'm dipping into right now. This is PR 149, it's excellent, semi-transparent and staining, and like I said, it reminds me of my old version of transparent pyrrole orange from Daniel Smith that you can't get anymore because of a rusted undertone to it. It's definitely more of a warm red in this, whereas the transparent pyrrole orange old version is definitely a warm orange, but the rusted kind of undertone to it reminds me a lot of that. Next we have Da Vinci Red, which is PR 254. This is very good, semi-opaque and staining. This is another one that I'm interested in exploring in order to widen my red knowledge a little bit more. Then we have our first tint. So this is Da Vinci Red Tint. It's the Da Vinci Red Pigment PR 254, but mixed with PW6 White in order to form a pinkish tone. And this is opaque, very good light fastness and staining. And then we have Rose D'Or Quin. This is a mix of PV19 and PR 188. This is very good, transparent, staining, and granulating 1, which is granulates a little. Then Naphthol Red, PR 170. This is very good light fastness. It's opaque and staining, so that's what I'm currently applying at the moment is the Naphthol Red. Again, this is another one that I'm interested in exploring. I don't often dip into opaque primaries, but I'm interested in trying it out nonetheless. Then we have quinacridone red, which is PR 209. It's a very good light fastness, transparent and staining. Quinacridone red I have some experience with in the past. I picked up a really small tube of, I believe it was the De La Rowney quinacridone red years and years and years ago. And then I think I gave it away after I used it for a while. I'm not, it's been a while, I'm trying to remember. But I'm interested in exploring that again. Then we have alizarin gold, PR 177, mixed with PY 42. Excellent, semi-transparent and staining. Another one I'm interested in exploring. It's got that kind of muted, rusty kind of tone to it as well. Then we have alizarin crimson quinacridone, which is PV 19. Very good light fastness, fully transparent, staining and granulates some. Now, an interesting thing about the Da Vinci line is they have all sorts of PV19s. So the next one is also PV19, but this is carmine. And this is very good light fastness, fully transparent, staining and granulates some as well, but it has a slightly different hue to it than the previous alizarin crimson. And next we have perylene maroon PR 179. I love perylene maroon. I'm interested in seeing how this one reacts and paints versus ones I've tried in the past. This is PR 179, excellent, semi-transparent and staining. Now we have another PV19. This is Red Rose Deep, and this is very good light fastness, fully transparent and staining. Again, I love PV19s. They're my favorite cool red primary for mixing. I usually go for a pinkish rose PV19, but in my endeavour to try to explore more reds, I do want to explore cool reds as well, I think. Now we have another PV19, which is a Rose Madder quinacridone. This would be the one that I'm most used to, I would probably say, in comparison to other quinacridone roses I've tried in the past, PB19s. This is also very good, fully transparent and staining. And then after this one, we'll be getting the good old opera pink, but in this line it's called Opus, and then in brackets Vivid Pink. So that's what I'm dipping into right now, and I'm going to be applying. This is a mixture of PR122 and red dye. So for those who aren't familiar with opera pink, it is a pretty fluorescent colour. It's not going to show up on camera as fluorescent as it does and as neon as it does in real life. But this has no rating for the light fastness because it's notoriously not light fast at all. But this one is also semi-transparent and staining. And then now you see me dip into quinacridone fuchsia. This is PR202. Excellent light fastness, transparent and staining. And another one that I'm interested in exploring in order to understand cool reds. Then we have Theo Indigo Violet, a mixture of PR88 and PB19, so another one including PB19 in here. And this is very good, fully transparent, staining and granulating with the G1 rating for granulation. And now you're seeing me dip into quinacridone Violet, another PB19. This one is definitely very cool leaning. It's excellent, fully transparent and staining. And again, this is one that I'm interested in exploring in terms of understanding my cooler reds. Now we have Permanent Magenta, a mixture of PB19 and PB29. This granulates some. It is very good light fastness, fully transparent and staining. And if I look at the chart in front of me now that it's dry, it does have a little bit of granulation with the blue in there as well. Then we have now we have Cobalt Violet Deep, which is what I'm applying at the moment. This is PV14 mixed with PB28. It's hazardous, excellent, fully transparent, and very granulating. So this is G2. And then we have, at the moment, Lilac Permanent, a mixture of PB19, PB29, and PW6. So this is mixed with a white. And that's very good, semi-opaque and staining. And now we have Lavender, which is also mixed with a white, but this time it's PV15 mixed with PW6. This is excellent, semi-opaque, and granulates some. I love both of these. I probably wouldn't use them much in my palette, but I would be interested in exploring them. Then we have Joyce's Mother Violet. Oh my goodness, this is a gorgeous colour. This is a mixture of PB33, PB15, and PV19. It's very good, transparent, granulates, and it's hazardous. And watch how it dries and look at the granulation once it's finished. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so gorgeous. And I believe PB33 is manganese blue, which you don't often see. And that's providing the gorgeous deep blue that you get in the granulation towards the end, and also providing the hazardous warning. Now we're moving on to the third box, but I'm only going to be doing half of the box in this, starting with some of the violets. First up we have Ultramarine Violet, which is PV15. It's excellent light fastness, fully transparent and granulates well. I love Ultramarine Violet, but I don't often get an opportunity to use it, so I'm excited to be able to explore it a bit with this set. Then we have Mauve, which is PV19 mixed with PB29, a classic combination. This is very good light fastness, fully transparent, staining and granulates some. It doesn't granulate that much. It is a G1 rating, but looking at it dry, you can barely tell that there's granulation, at least in the swatch I did. Then we have Da Vinci Violet, another classic. This is PV23. This is very good light fastness, semi-opaque and staining. It's a very intense violet hue, and I find this pigment particularly useful for a mixing violet. How transparent and opaque it is seems to differ brand to brand a bit. It's interesting to see what this one's going to be like in practice. Now we have Artemis, which is a colour that I was really excited to try out, and I'm so glad I've been able to. This is PG18 mixed with PP29 and PR177. It granulates heavily, it's hazardous, excellent light fastness, semi-opaque, staining. And this is very similar to other heavily granulating muted violets that you can find in other brands as well, but it has its own charm to it too. Now we have Stormy Blue, PB60, mixed with PR101, another one I'm excited to try because, as some of you may know, I absolutely love Indanthrone Blue or Indanthrene Blue, which is PB60. This is very good light fastness, semi-opaque and granulating some. And now we have another interesting mix of pigments. This is Indigo, which is a mix of PB27 and PV19. It's very good, fully transparent, staining and granulates some. So this is a mixture of Prussian Blue and PV19. An old favourite of mine, Prussian Blue, and it's a really pretty indigo. It's going to be interesting to try out. Then we have Indanthrene Blue, PB60. I've been really wanting to try out this Indanthrene Blue to potentially replace the one that I currently have once I run out of it, and I do love it so far initially, but we'll see how I end up falling in love with it or not through practice. Then we have Prussian Blue, PB27. Again, like I said, this was an old favourite of mine. It's excellent light fastness, fully transparent, staining, and it has some granulation. And now I'm dipping into Jackson Blue, which is a mixture of PB28 and PB23. This is hazardous, excellent, fully transparent and staining. This is a new one to me, a new mixture for me, and I'm interested to see what this could potentially be like in practice, but it's not one that I was initially jumping for as much as Indanthrene Blue. Then we have Cobalt Blue Deep, PB28, hazardous, excellent, transparent and granulates some. It's a classic colour for a lot of people. And then we have Cobalt Blue again, but this time it's just Cobalt Blue, PB28, hazardous, excellent, fully transparent and granulates some. And that's what I'm dipping into now. And then we're going to have one more colour after this, which will be Phthalo Blue Red shade. So this is the Cobalt Blue Deep and Cobalt Blue. And now we're going into Phthalo Blue Red shade. And red shade is one that I haven't really got much experience in. It's PB15, very good light fastness, fully transparent and staining. I do definitely want to explore this a little bit more just to see whether or not the red shade is something that I would ever consider needing or not, but it'll be interesting to explore nonetheless. And with that, this is going to be the first half of the swatching, and we'll pick it up from the rest of this box to go through the cooler blues, well, some of the mid-tone blues, then some of the cooler blues, and into the greens, earth tones, and into the neutrals as well. But this is what the swatch sheet for the first half looks like, and you can see Artemis here, which is gorgeous, and we've got the Stormy Blue next to it. And then over here we have the Joyce's Mother Violet dry and the ultramarine violet next to it, and the granulation on both of these is gorgeous, but it's particularly outstanding in the Joyce's Mother Violet. It wasn't a colour I was expecting at all, and it's blown me away in its texture. And I'm interested in exploring some of these pinks that I'm pointing out as well. I'm definitely excited to be able to explore a potential replacement for my favourite rusty transparent Pyrrole Orange, but I also want to try out some of the other warm reds as well, and this is a brilliant opportunity for me to do so without having to go out and buy small tubes of a bunch of different colours that I might not necessarily enjoy. I've got plenty of paint left in these samples to go out and at least do one painting with the remaining blobs. If not two, we'll see though. For some of them I can probably squeeze two out of them. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting for some of you, and next week I'll be releasing the second half of this before potentially going into some paintings and illustrations using the samples. If you have suggestions for limited palettes as well, please leave them in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye!